Right, it's time to go to our panel now, our Monday morning panel. Paul Ellis, music producer. Good morning, Paul.
Morning.
And Trish Sherson, PR executive. Good.
Can I have a briefcase? It feels like it needs a briefcase.
You must have a briefcase.
A slimline executive briefcase.
Full of bribes.
Oh.
Yeah, bribe cash. Although you would be paying bribes, not accepting bribes in PR, wouldn't you? Oh, both.
I think you've got the wrong end of the stick,
Yeah,
Paul,
you'd be just swapping money around. All right, let's start with the Twitter. So this morning we had an expert in here saying that essentially within a couple of years, if it's not happening already, all directors, all senior management will have to have a social media presence, and people will be judged career-wise on how many followers they have.
Yeah, it depends what they do. I mean, I think in my world of music and entertainment, that's where it's really important. Someone like Lorde or Beyonce or Katy Perry can tweet to their fans and get the message out really fast. You know, I've got a new record, I'm on tour, etc. If you're in a boardroom, if you're the CEO of Air New Zealand, why would he be tweeting?
Why, Trish?
Well, no, I disagree with that. I mean, I think a great example, look at Rod Drury from Xero, who really has built a company reputation based on his Twitter feed.
And he's actually reported quite a lot. What he says is reported quite a lot.
That's exactly right. I think Twitter now is, I call it the 1440 newsroom. That's the number of minutes in every 24 hour, and Twitter is just driving
what,
news.
1440?
You haven't even done that calculation.
No.
But Twitter, if you think about social media platforms, Twitter is actually today's newsroom. Look at how any news report you see, people will take tweets.
But as a former journalist, you know, I get very annoyed when I read something like the Herald, for instance, and it says so-and-so said, you know, has an opinion about something. And who is that person? Why do they have an opinion about it? It's been reported back in the paper.
Oh, no, I love the languaging, took to Twitter. That's what people always say. He took to Twitter.
The thing that annoys me, this is a sort of side issue, but the thing that annoys me is where they will have 5 tweets from people who are entirely nondescript. You have no idea who these people are.
Yes.
And they'll give you 5 tweets that presumably prove the point they were trying to make.
Correct.
And they're trying to make the wider point that this is how the country is feeling. It's some sort of proportional representation.
Spread around, and then the story becomes...
It's loaded.
But without sounding mean, Paul, I think these days, if you say, I'm not on Twitter, I'm not interested like you did, you do sound like a little bit of a dick, because especially in a job like yours.
To be fair,
it's a little bit silly.
Without being mean.
But you bet you are on Twitter.
No, I'm not.
No, he's not on Twitter.
No, I've got people.
No idea.
You've got people, exactly. Yeah.
But I make sure that whoever's on the Twitter knows that they know it's not me.
Right, okay.
That it might be something that someone's heard me say. But and the thing is, I'm not proud to be an Aztec or anything like that. It's just I literally can't be bothered. I just don't want to do it.
But isn't that funny? Because once you get onto Twitter, you realise it's actually a personalised news feed.
I know.
No, you don't. You love me. You're just being silly as usual.
No, I actually don't. All right, let's talk about Milo. I might just talk to you about this. Actually, Paul.
Okay.
Isn't it extraordinary that it's almost an iconic product, Milo, in New Zealand, that you would change it at all, whether it's for the good or the ill, without telling people?
There's 2 things here. One, it's a PR disaster for Nestle. That's a given. And why don't they tell their customers before they're going to change the recipe? And also, why was it so bad in the first place that it needed to be changed? But they obviously changed to save money. They brought it into line with other products around the world.
Well, they're not going to say that, are they?
No, of course, but that's obviously the given, isn't it?
Well, you would assume. I mean, they're saying that they're doing it to better compensate people's lives. So you'll have more energy because they've got a better mix of vitamins and minerals and things like that.
And palm oil.
Palm oil, which essentially is just what were we saying? Crushed up baboons and...
Orangutans
and pandas.
But doesn't the Milo thing prove the point about social media? That whole thing is driven off a flurry on social media. You've been reading out things all day.
No, you're absolutely right.
But also I thought that the response from the Nestle people on Facebook, it was, just typical corporate kind of speak. Oh, yes, when we're waiting, when customers will come to enjoy it. No, they're not going to.
But how could they have missed the boat so badly on this? They must have expected that there would be some kind of feedback.
It's corporate arrogance, isn't it?
I think Paul is right, though. These days, you've got to actually, if it had been Paul and his brilliant PR mind, he would have actually come out first, created a story around it.
Well, look at the Cadbury's Whittaker's.
He was sitting there having no idea what you were going to say. Paul and his brilliant mind. God, what's she going to say?
Exactly.
But didn't Cadbury's mess up and Whittaker's took the market here when they took it with palm oil as well?
Yeah. Well, that's the irony. I mean, because wasn't it Cadbury's got into trouble for using palm oil?
Correct.
They tried to take it out because it was so bad for not bad for the environment, but essentially it's the sole cause of global warming. And they took it out, and of course it didn't taste good without it.
No.
And now here you are, Nestle. It's palm oiled up the yin yang.
Yeah.
Isn't it? All right, we'll be back in a minute. We will be back with our panel, Paul Ellis and Trish Sherson.
She's going.
in just a moment. Good morning. It's like the Brains Trust this morning. Paul Ellis, music producer, and Trish Sherson, PR expert from Sherson Willis. That's your own company. That's how much you know about PR.
That's very creative. I'm the Sherson and there's a Willis.
Yeah, yeah. You're not both Sherson and Willis because that would just be personal loan.
It would be.
Very quickly, towards the end of the program, this is what a beautifully balanced program this is. Soon we're going to be talking about the Hadron Collider. What do you know about the Hadron Collider?
You Sorry, nothing.
You know nothing about the Hadron Collider. And then we're going to be talking about Dancing with the Stars. What do you know about Dancing with the Stars?
Yes. Simon popped his knee. Simon popped his knee.
Yes, apparently he did.
Yeah,
apparently he did.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say that if you thought you'd slipped up in the dancing?
He did.
No, but I mean, wouldn't that be what you would say? Even if you hadn't
maybe
popped your knee?
Maybe he just wants to leave the show.
Yeah. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. We'll run that past.
Jeepers. I'd pop a knee to get out of wearing those.
To get out of the shirt. The interesting thing, and you've just proved my point, is that you have an opinion and you know about Dancing with the Stars, but you have no opinion, you don't know about the Hadron Collider, which actually tells us where we've been as a planet and where we're going. But you knew that, Trish, didn't you?
I did.
Okay, it's a glider?
Yes, it's a glider.
It's a glider, there we are.
All right, where the hell did that come from?
Hadron Glider.
Right. Now, climate change. I'm reluctant to talk about this because I have virtually no interest in it at all. But this group of scientists now are suggesting that New Zealand lead the way. We have more opportunities than many countries to lead the way on climate change, and so we should be really staking a claim and having really tougher targets to meet than other countries because we're going to be trailblazers. What do you think, Paul?
Does the rest of the world really going to listen to us? Are they going to listen to us because of what reason?
Are they going to listen to us? That is a very good question. Trish, you probably know the answer to that.
Well, every time I come back to New Zealand, I think, wow, we're lucky you can actually see more than 100 metres in front of you. I mean, if you go to countries go up into China these days, the smog and everything is appalling. I think, though, that setting tougher targets for New Zealand businesses, because ultimately there's cost all the way around this. There's cost all the way around this. What I do think, though, is New Zealand does lead in terms of we do have an amazing reputation overseas. We're a commodity exporter. People do think that we are clean and green, and with provenance being a big thing.
That's the point these scientists are making, effectively. We have the best platform to launch this from because, brand New Zealand is seen as caring about the environment.
Well, that's right. And I do think if we're out there saying, we're clean and green, you've got to do it, be it, say it. You've got to be actually living it. But I just would be very wary in terms of, any kind of harder pushing on New Zealand businesses.
Impose penalties on New Zealanders.
And who pays for all this?
Yeah. Well, everyone has to pay for it. Right. Essentially, New Zealand has to pay for however we decide to treat this. Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is, the United States and China. I mean, China, who, they didn't even know what the environment was until last week. And then it was just something to hunt down and destroy. They have now set some pretty incredible targets, targets that are tougher than the ones that we're setting.
But they have to, don't they? I mean, they really, they're in dire straits up the yin-yang pool, as you would say.
If we're going to use that phrase. Right, okay, finally, a survey has come out to show that, and I love surveys, we all love surveys, to show that only hang on, it's here, we're 1 in 5. I wanted to get it right. Only 1 in 5 people enjoy workplace fun events that have been organised for them. Yep. Now, you, over the years, have been involved in large organisations and managing large organisations.
For 30 years, so it's fun every day.
It's fun every day.
And we don't need to go and dress up because the artists themselves dress up and we laugh at them.
So did you never do that? Did you never say, right, we're going to have Crazy Friday?
No, we just go for lunch on a Friday and never go back to work in the afternoon. That was our fun.
Those were the days.
It's called a linner, lunch into dinner.
Lunch into dinner.
Yeah. But really, it's like going to a dress-up party. Don't you just dread that? Someone has
you do.
So I think that if you're not having fun in your workplace, go somewhere else and go to a place you can actually enjoy.
It's true. You get invited to a party. I mean, I hate parties. Well, I don't get invited to parties, but I can imagine you get invited to a party and then just before you go, you look at the invitation and there's a theme and you just think, God, take me now, Jesus.
Exactly.
Do you have things like you've got a small staff at your PR organisation?
Well,
do
what
you
they
have
say,
fun
Paul,
events?
Every day is a great day in PR. That's what we say.
That's fantastic. Only you could spin that. All right, Trish Sherson and Paul Ellis, thank you both very much for joining us. We will catch you back again very soon.